I just don't want to be drawn into saying something which is a very sort of simple black and white thing which I hadn't.
Go on, Helen Whately. Make a decision. That's what you're there for. But anyway, hello there, and I do hope you're all well, and I do hope you all had a fantastic weekend too. Now, this is a bit of an oldie, I suppose, because this is a Health and Social Care Committee meeting that was on the 2nd of May. Now, the thing is, with Parliament being in recess last week, it just gives you more time to look for material that I might have missed, which I know I've no excuses, because let's be honest, when it comes to stuff like nowadays in pmqs and House of Commons, nothing much happens these days, other. But anyway, in this committee meeting, the subject of the conversation was adult social care, and Labour's Paul Blomfield asked if she was happy with the fact that social care workers are the lowest paid workers in any industry.
Do you not accept that... No, let me ask this a different way. Those involved in delivering social care are probably doing a job for the most vulnerable in our society. Are you comfortable that they get the lowest pay in any sector or any job?
That pause, deafening, wasn't it? Let's be honest, it's really an easy question. You clearly say, yes, I totally agree. This is an absolute disgrace and this needs to be addressed. And this is what I'm determined to do to address this. Get ready for the word salad, my friends.
I think starting from the top, I want, and I've set out, I think really clearly, to my ambition for the care workforce to be recognised for the work they do, to be valued for the work they do.
I press you on that, because value does relate to career opportunities, to training, to support, to their management, but fundamentally also value is about pay. Okay. They are the lowest paid workers in this country. Are you happy with that?
And so to that, I'm going to say two things. So I can talk about the national living wage going up. You'll know about that. And that it's gone up by almost 10% early this month to £10.42 an hour, a pay rise of £1,600 per annum before tax for somebody who's working full time. That said, I don't want people always to think of social care as being sort of a national living wage job. I think people should be rewarded for what they do, and I want there to be an opportunity for there to be career progression within social care, for instance, and when people gain more skills, I think that should be recognised.
Well, if you want the brightest and best, as they say often, we are bringing the brightest and best to take up any position, especially in social care. You have to pay them what they're worth, not what you think they should accept, in my eyes. And begone, you peasants, and accept your gruel.
But fundamentally, beyond the level set by the national minimum wage, what people are paid in social care is determined by their employers, and what their employers pay is a function of the combination of what self-funders clearly pay for their care and the funding through local authorities and the fee rates that they set. And I know one thing that makes, is clearly a factor in the fee rates that local authorities set is the support from central government for the cost of social care. That's why the up to 7.5 billion announced at the Autumn Statement was really important, because it's an above real terms increase in above inflation increase in funding for social care, and so that is intended to enable local authorities to make material investments in social care. They have discretion as to how they do that, but one of the criteria of what we call the MSIF, the Market Sustainability and Improvement Fund, part of the grant funding coming from government, is to enable them to increase fee rates to providers, so in turn enables providers to reward their workforce. So that, to me, is what we can do in central government to fundamentally support the pay of the workforce.
I think she could have saved us nearly 3 minutes of time and just said, yes, I'm quite happy for social care workers to be the lowest paid workers and they should shut up and just go away. Only kidding, but you get the feeling it just sounded like total word salad to me.
Well, thanks for that. And I note 2 points you made, that you think you want to see the workforce better rewarded in terms of pay. And you said you don't want social care to be seen as a national living wage paid job. And that's good to know. Now, there are those who would contest whether the money that the government is putting in is sufficient to improve the pay of the workforce. But let's not have that argument. Let me just ask you the question, given your ambition for the workforce that you just described to me, will you be disappointed if we don't see a significant increase in pay for those working in social care?
I mean, I think so. What I know, and I think I've been clear in my communications to local authorities.
Sorry, but is it me? But when I see Helen Whately, she just reminds me of someone who just really lacks confidence in herself. She just oozes towiness to me, I suppose, and someone who you cannot help feeling. Well, I cannot help feeling sorry for her because she looks, to me, out of her depth. And I just feel a little sorry for her. I know it's my compassion side in me getting the better of me, I must admit, because Tories, they're all the same out there, I suppose. Maybe some are not, I don't know. I'm rabbiting on, sorry.
I want to see significant improvements and increase, for instance, in supply of social care. We want the funding that's going into local authorities, the grants and the extra support for discharge, for instance, to allow there to be an increase in provision of social care over and above the baseline. And for instance, I want us to be in a much better position over the coming months, and particularly as we go into winter, to make sure that there's a social care that is needed for people who need to be discharged into hospital. And that is dependent on there being the workforce to provide that social care, which in turn has a relationship with pay. But I think I do think I'm thoughtful but clearly about government's place in this. And I say the role of the government is in supporting the sector, but I'm realistic. Again, well, I think it's right. Local authorities play a very important part, that they know their local care market, the local employment market. They know better than I do what is needed in a particular geography. So while I give a sort of strong steer about what my expectations would be in making sure that there's the supply that's needed, I wouldn't pretend to think I have all the answers sitting here in Westminster.
I think I'm going back to the Chair's opening remarks, really, about what your ambition is. And the pay of the workforce is a kind of critical issue. So your ambition, as you described it to me a moment ago, was that you wanted to see the workforce better rewarded. You didn't want this to be seen as a national living wage job. You haven't quite answered my question. If you'll be disappointed if there is not, therefore, as a result of the government's injection of funding, a significant increase.
I just don't want to be drawn to
recognising, if I might, the Chair's opening comments that you were putting a lot of the responsibility onto local authorities. Well, local authorities have had more than half their funding cut, so the additional injection doesn't go a long way to giving them the kind of agency to really transform the situation on their own. But I just want to know what your ambition for care workers' wages was.
Well, I think the local government settlement isn't in real terms increase this year, and so particularly with our focus on social care, I want that to be able to increase the supply and meet the growing need for social care. I just don't want to be drawn into saying something which is sort of a very sort of simple black and white thing, which I hadn't, which isn't the way I think. Which is that no, I want to see people rewarded in social care. And actually, I think something I feel very strongly about, and it's something that's particularly come through to me through clearly many conversations with care workers over the years, is the importance of this progression point and people being able to be recognised for their experience and their skills. And something which is articulated sometimes as a frustration as people's that not being recognised, as well as actually making sure that we address the other thing, which I'm sure you'll have had plenty of emails and conversations about the questions about whether social care workers, particularly domiciliary care workers, really pay for their travel time, or for if they're having to wait for appointments. I think there are some problems with the model to which they're paid. It's quite complicated, and sometimes it's done based on like hours of actual care, rather than paying for the duration of a shift, for instance, which leads to some of these problems with whether travel time is or isn't being funded. And I want to make sure that we're confident that actually domiciliary care workers are being properly paid for the hours of work that they are doing. But these things are, there's a complexity in it. So important things we're doing is, on the one hand, funding into the sector, and the other hand, I see it's really important is the CQC assurance of local authorities, including how they commission care, because how they commission care is so important in how then providers deliver it and the relationships providers then have with their staff.
Sorry you have to hear that diatribe. To be honest, as I was watching her, the more I thought, she kind of reminds me of somebody who, when it comes to explaining herself, she would go around the house 20 times, up the wall 15, round the garden and the hedge 20 times till she gets to whatever point she's trying to reach, if you know what I mean. So I was like, okay, sorry if you had to hear that diatribe, but I was watching her. I also thought that if I were a social care worker, the lowest paid work in any industry apparently, and looking after the most vulnerable. And if I was watching Helen Whately there here thinking and hoping she might be the person who will fight tooth and nail and get me a much better pay rise, she didn't fill me with much confidence at all. She didn't seem to have that eye of the tiger either, did she? Rachel Maskell asked her before Paul Blomfield, sat next to him, asked about doing away with 0-hour contracts, and she hummed and ahed, waffled more word salad, and then in the end, after 2 minutes, Richard Maskell said, "Oh, take it, you're not going to do away with 0-hour contracts." Yeah, but that pause at the start was very deafening, wasn't it? But anyway, what do you guys think? Let me know down below, and until the next time, I shall bid you farewell and take care, my friends.